Good morning, Rowan. It is time for part 2 of our optical illusion art project. Today, the supplies that you are going to need is your drawing of your black and white drawing of our hand that we did. You're going to need, I like to say, you're going to want an extra sheet of paper to go underneath your drawing so that when we fill it in with color, you won't have anything seeping through onto the surface of your table. I have a color wheel here. If you happen to have one, please pull it out. But obviously you can just watch the video and look at mine. If you have some extra paper, you're going to want a little extra scrap sheet of paper so you can practice some color combinations. And you're going to need some markers. I've got this big bag of fun markers. You can just use your Crayola markers. That nice box of 8 or 12 markers, those would be perfect. So let's go ahead, grab all of our supplies, and get started. All right, Rowan, we are back to create the last part of our optical illusion hand. I hope that last week you had just a lot of fun doing this, and you just look at your drawing now and you think, oh, that's kind of cool. So today we're going to do the fun part where we're going to be adding the color. Now I have my color wheel here that I made, and the color wheel helps us figure out a couple of different things. It helps us figure out which ones are the primaries, and I have those marked on my color wheel with the word primary. But the red, yellow, and blue, these are special colors because they mix, these are the colors that mix every other color. We have in the past used the red, yellow, and blue, but we also have mixed our orange, green, and purple. And those are what we call secondary colors. And when you have a color wheel, you'll know how to mix them because these secondary colors are next to the two colors that make them. So our red and our yellow, when those are mixed together, they make orange. Our other secondary color, green, is in between our yellow and our blue, and when the yellow and the blue are mixed together, they make green. And then the third secondary color, which is violet or purple, it's surrounded by blue and red, and when you mix the blue and red together, they make purple. So the great thing about having a color wheel or looking at a color wheel, it reminds you of how to make your colors, and it also helps you pick out colors that look good together or have a strong contrast. And the word contrast means that they're very different. It has colors that are very different. So for our what we call complementary colors, which are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel, those are what we call complementary color schemes. And those have the highest contrast. So oftentimes you will see these complementary colors used together. I always think of our complementary color red and green. Those are the kind of traditional Christmas colors. We have our orange and our blue. You can think of different schools and universities that like to use that color combination. Same thing with the purple and the gold. But these are very common color combinations. Now, if you remember the student example that we looked at, they used orange and blue, which is a complementary color, and then they threw in one extra color, and they chose one of the colors next to either the orange and the blue on the color wheel. They chose purple, so they did this combination. So you need to decide what color combination you would like to use for your hand project. I am going to stick with the orange and the blue because I really like that. And I'm going to choose one more color to use, but instead of using purple, I'm going to use yellow. So I'm going to stick with these three. And that just feels like a very nice contrasting color combination. So that yellow, that orange and the blue, which is kind of traditional, complementary, I know those are going to look good, and I'm going to add a little something extra and have a lighter section, and that's going to have the yellow. I want you to figure out what you might want to do. I want you to choose a complementary color, so either purple and yellow, orange and blue, or red and green, and then choose one more color that's next to one of those two colors on the color wheel. I couldn't decide, because we're going to be coloring with markers, which kind of blue I wanted to use for mine. So I kind of drew them out on my paper to see what my markers would look like together. So I tried doing it with a lighter blue, and then I tried doing it with a darker blue. And I decided that I liked the darker blue, the orange, and you can see I have a bunch of different yellows, so I was trying to decide which yellow to use, and I'm going to use this kind of medium one. So if you want to experiment and get out some of your colors, so for example, let's say that you want to do red and green for certain. So you could get out your a red marker and draw that down, and then you would find a green one like this, and you can just put a line there. So I've got my red and my green, and that means either I need to do, I could do or add orange, or I could add purple. Or I can add yellow, or I can add blue. So one that's next to one of these two colors. So if I added the blue, it would look like that. I'm gonna make sure I'm not getting it on my paper underneath. Or I can try, same thing, I'll do the red, the green, but instead of going blue, let's say I go yellow. So you can kind of see you could do that, or you could do that, whichever one looks better. Let's try it again. We're going to stick with the red and green. We'll try two more options, red and green. But instead of doing yellow or blue, we could try orange or purple. So let's see what the orange would look like. Or we could do a purple. Whoa, that's a really dark purple. We could try a light purple too. Oh, that one's still pretty dark. Okay, so I want you to kind of play around with your colors and think about what options. So you could do, if you're going to do red and green, you could do red, green, and blue. You could do red, green, and yellow. You could do red, green, and orange. You could do red, green, and purple. It's all up to you. I just want you to play around and figure out which kind of color set that you would like. And if you need to pause the video and take some time doing that, go ahead and do that. You should just be using your Crayola markers or whatever markers you have at your house. And you can try some of the light blue or the dark blue. There are lots and lots of options. So like I said before, this is the color combination that I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the dark blue, the orange, and the yellow. Once you have your markers pulled for that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a pattern across your hands. And we're going to start at the very bottom just like we did before. And I've got my black paper to put underneath so my markers don't go through onto my desk, which I know they like to do, so I'm just being careful. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to repeat a pattern of lines. So I'm going to start with my orange, and I'm going to go at the bottom on my line, and I'm going to follow my black lines, right? And I'm going to have them go and touch the edge of my lines like that, all right? And you're just going to follow them across So if they curve, you curve, and you can see that kind of covered the black line, and that doesn't matter. And when they go straight, you go straight. Now I'm going to take a break just for a second, and we're going to try the next color so you can see what's going to happen. I'm going to go with my light yellow, and I don't care what order you do it in. You do it in the order you like. And I'm going to trace right on the edge of that orange. We can see that color combo we've got going. And then I follow it up with the blue. Now I have no room down on this edge, but I do have room here. Now I have really close here on the edge. I can either fill that all in blue, or I could go back in with the orange and fill part of that in if I wanted to as well, depending on which color I want to have more of. And that is what it's going to look like. I'm going to continue on with my orange and follow all of those black lines. You just want to make sure that if the line is straight, you're really following how straight it is, and if it is curved, you really have that curve, because that's what makes our hand and arms stand out. Now you can see, Ron, when I got into this area where it's a little bit smaller, some of my spaces are almost completely filled with the orange. And that means that if I can't fit all the colors in, that's okay. Like this is going to be really tight here. We mostly want it to stay in its pattern, but like I said, if some of it won't fit, we just adjust. I'm really not going to be able to fit my blue in there, so I just won't. I'm going to go back to my orange, and if you have your Crayola, you just want to use the tip of it to keep it thin enough for some of this. I have a wider tip, but I know if you use your Crayolas, if you just use it on the tip, you can get a skinnier line than if you use it on its side. Because we just want to be really careful to get our curved lines in. We don't want to lose that, because we want to be able to see we want all of our fingers to appear. You can see I can't fit my blue in all of these. So I'm putting it in as many as I can get it. But it's okay if it doesn't have to all have it. We're trying to keep to our pattern and we're doing our best. Got this one there. The last part of our hand project, we want to flip over. I think it's easier to reach this way. You can flip yours if you want. Now again, that is going to kind of change how you paint it, because now you're going, or you use your markers, you're going to I'm going across the top of black. All right, Ron, it's kind of fun looking at your drawing from a couple of different directions. And no matter how you look at it, what you see is that you've created an optical illusion. It appears as if you have a three-dimensional hand on top of your paper. I hope you had just so much fun adding the color and making this project with me. I want you to remember to put your name in the bottom corner of your art project so we know who did it. I look forward to seeing your project posted on Seesaw. And if you like doing optical illusions, there are all sorts of optical illusions that you can do for projects that are on the internet, and you can have your mom or dad help you find them if you want to play around with creating some more. Have a great week, and I look forward to seeing your project soon.